Hello and welcome to the Home of the Ghost Style, as here we are for another one of our Warriors of Chaos faction focus episodes, coming to the end of the normal army roster as we now take a look at the rare units with only the legendary named lords and heroes to go. So here we are looking at the 8th edition army book for Warriors of Chaos, seeing how the units played in 8th edition to give us an idea of how they might play and what might be included in Warhammer The Old World. So the rare category. One of the trickiest categories, normally because it's got all the cool stuff that you might want to take, but it's got quite a restricted points limit of only 500 points in a 2,000 point game. So first up, we have the Hell Cannon, no longer available to buy. So that is a problem. You can see it here, though, on the right-hand side, and it actually comes with Chaos Dwarf Crew, which was pretty cool as well. But there you go, that is the Hell Cannon. Stats-wise, average ballistic skill, but good strength, toughness, attacks, and leadership. Low movement and initiative. Equipment-wise, they have hand weapons, and it's actually a monster with 3 Chaos Dwarf handlers. Special rules, Cage to Fury. Leadership test at the beginning of the turn. If it's failed, it faces the nearest enemy unit and then has random movement 3d6 and may only move forwards. Demonic attacks and magical attacks, demonic construction. It's 4+ armor save, 5+ ward save. Doomfire is a stone thrower. It's 12 to 60 inches. It's strength 5, strength 10 under the center hole of the template. Move or fire. Multiple wounds d6, slow to fire, and any unit that takes casualties must take a panic test at -1, and it also has a special misfire table unique to the Hell Cannon. It is a large target, so it can't get benefit of cover, has the monsters and handlers rule, terror and unbreakable. The only artillery type of unit in the roster, though bearing in mind it is a monster, it does come at great risk. It's got quite a harsh misfire table, which if it does misfire, and that's a 1 in 6 chance every time you fire it, you get a high possibility of damaging friendly units by quite a lot. It is tough. It can defend itself because it's kind of like a monster. So in combat, these sort of small skirmishing units of wolves or bats or whatever happens to be aren't just going to take it down easily. But this is not a unit that I used. I prefer to put my rare points in something a bit more reliable, such as Skull Crushers or Monsters. I'm not the biggest fan of overall RNG units too much. I prefer to have that more reliable output than the high risk reward units, which can often cause you to be unstuck, and I'm not sure I had the luckiest dice in the game. Next up, however, is the Dragon Ogre Shagoth, and we've actually already seen a Warhammer The Old World at least stat line and unit card, though not a full explanation of its rules. Good movement, weapon skill, strength, toughness, wounds, attacks, and leadership, low ballistic skill and initiative, and this miniature is still available on the Warhammer web store. Equipment-wise, hand weapon and light armor, may take additional hand weapon or a great weapon. Unit size of 1, special rules, it's immune to psychology, large target, scaly skin of 5+, storm rage ability, same as the other dragon ogres, which is the 2+ ward save against lightning attacks, and if it's hit by lightning it gains frenzy and it causes terror. It's a decent stat line, but it's only 15 points cheaper than a Chimera, which I would actually prefer the Chimera because it can also fly and has better upgrades, more durable, which is absolutely key for a monster. And as before, the Storm Rage ability, you're paying for it, but it's incredibly situational and almost never going to get to use it. So not a bad looking miniature, though looking relatively old now. But certainly not one that I wanted to use. Hopefully, the new stat line looks interesting, but what's going to be important is how those special rules work as to seeing if this is something you want to take, also combined with what points it will come out at. That is the Dragon Ogre Shagoth, and we know this is definitely in the Warriors of Chaos roster. So you've got a Chaos Giant now. Now this is currently available on the Warhammer web store, but it's known as a Chaos Gargant for Age of Sigmar. So if you are looking for it, don't type in Giant, type in Gargant, and that will get you to the Chaos version. Stats wise, good movement, strength, toughness, wounds, and leadership. Low weapon skill, ballistic skill, initiative. Equipment is a hand weapon, and it can have a mark of Chaos Giant. So Khorne gets +1 strength, Tzeentch 6+ ward save, Nurgle +1 toughness, Slaanesh +1 initiative. Unit size of 1. Special rules. Fall over. Now there's like 2 pages. 2 full pages of how to use a giant, just to be aware, and we are very much glossing over them here, but you must test to see if it falls over. If it does fall over, it will damage what it lands on with strength 6 multiple wounds D3 hits. Ouch. It has also a very special attack profile, different attacks for monsters and infantry, and then you randomly generate that by rolling on the table, so you don't quite know what attacks you're going to be doing. It's a large target, it's stubborn, and it causes terror. It's the cheapest monster at 200 points. It does have some fun rules, but it comes with a lot of randomness in terms of falling over. When you kill it, it falls over. Risk of it damaging your unit, so you need to keep it, reasonably far away from your units. And I never took this unit. I preferred Skull Crushers or a Slaughter Brute or Mutilith Vortex Beast, just because it's more reliable. As I said before, not that biggest fan of the randomness, and so I prefer the reliability of the consistent output. So Chaos Giant, not something I used. Next up, Chaos Spawn, currently available. These are the models available on the Warhammer web store. Stats-wise, good toughness and leadership, low weapon skill, ballistic skill, and initiative, random movement and attacks. Equipment, it may take a Spawn of Chaos Mark, unit size of 1, special rules, fear. It's got random attacks, d6 +1, random movement of 2d6, and is unbreakable. So I'm sure you've seen over my various faction videos in the last couple of units, I like to reduce randomness where possible. The Spawn is very random, moving anywhere from 2 to 12 inches. Attacks anywhere from 2 to 7. Now it is only 50 points, so overall it's not bad, but for 25 points more I could take a Skull Crusher. And to be honest, I'd rather pay the 25 points and take a Skull Crusher. So Spawn, again, not something that was a feature in my personal choice of Warriors of Chaos army list. Next up, though, we do have the Skull Crushers of Khorne. These are currently available on the web store, as you see there. The unit of 6. Good movement, weapon skill, initiative, attacks, wounds, and leadership. Low ballistic skill, equipment, hand weapon, chaos armor, and shield. And they may take lances or ensorcelled weapons. Minimum unit size of 3, and they do get a full command as well. They get Brass Behemoth, which is that +2 save rather than the +1. They got Demonic Attacks, which is magical attacks. Eye of the Gods rule for the champion. They cause fear. They come with a mark of Khorne, which is giving them a frenzy. And they get Murderous Charge, which is +1 strength on the charge. Now, they're pricey. They're 75 points a model. But I really like Skull Crushers. Give them ensorcelled weapons. They're strength 5, strength 6 on the charge. 5 attacks, plus attacks for frenzy. They've got a 1+ armor save. This is a really good unit. I often take 5 with a full command and a magic standard, which would pretty much take up my entire rare category points allowance. But this is a fearsome unit. And that would provide some added movement and flexibility to my infantry heavy formations. As I said, I like my Warriors of Chaos, my Chaos Warriors, I like my Chosen, big units, but you need a bit of flexibility and movement there, and these guys do that combined with a unit of Knights. They're resistant to shooting. They are vulnerable to spells, so maybe your magic standard is going to help with that. But that's the one thing they do have vulnerability with. And also they can be move blocked by suiciding units. So that's the other thing to be wary of. You're planning a big charge into a key enemy unit, and you can get move blocked by some wolves. So you do need to consider that. But that applies to pretty much any big cavalry unit. These guys are just scary. If they hit an enemy unit, they absolutely wreck. And that's what you need out of cavalry in the 8th edition to do something. In the Warhammer The Old World, if these continue as they are, they're going to be really, really scary. And they look cool to boot. So hopefully they keep their place in the roster, because I really want to run these in Warhammer The Old World. Okay, we've got the Slaughter Brute. This is kind of like a cornate monster. You can see it there. It is a dual kit with the Mutilith Vortex Beast, which is still available on the web store. Good movement, strength, toughness, wounds, and attacks. Low weapon skill, ballistic skill, initiative, and leadership. Equipment-wise, it can take extra claws. That's +2 strength, 5 attacks, and it obviously is a unit of 1. It is a large target, so you're not getting any cover, and it has the runes of binding. This basically means you nominate a lord or hero at the start of the game to be its master, and the Slaughter Brute then uses that model's weapon skill and leadership. That's pretty cool. Scaly skin of 4+, causes terror. Now, unbound, if the master dies, it does become unbound. Its movement then becomes random 2d6, and it's subject to frenzy. Direction of movement is determined by scatter dice, and if it moves into a friendly unit, it causes d6 +2 strength 7 hits. That's very nasty. So you need to be very considerate of the lord or hero that you have the binding with. And if you are going to throw that lord into a big combat where he's at risk, consider where your Slaughter Brute is so that you try and keep him going in the direction and far enough away from your other units that he doesn't damage them. Not a bad monster choice. He's fairly cheap. He's at 205 points. And if he's bound to a lord, he's getting weapon skill 8, leadership 9. That's crazy. 6 attack, strength 5 is reasonably good. It does, however, lack the durability. His toughness 5, he's 5 wounds and only a 4+ save. So overall, I'd probably prefer a Chimera with that breath attack and fly, or more likely in the rare category, certainly putting those points into Skull Crushers. Okay, coming up to the final unit in the rare section of the Warriors of Chaos roster, which is the Mutalith Vortex Beast. You can see it here, still available on the web store, and you can see it on an Age of Sigmar base. Here. Stats-wise, good movement, strength, toughness, wounds, and leadership. Low weapon skill, ballistic skill, and initiative. And it has random attacks, d6 +2. Unit size of 1. Now, special rules. This is where this thing starts to shine a bit. Aura of Mutation. It's a bound spell. It's power level 5, 18 inches, direct damage. Roll d6 on the table, special table, to determine the effect that you get and the number of toughness tests that need to be taken by an enemy unit. Each failed toughness test is 1 wound with no armor save. Large target. Random attacks d6 +2. It's got regeneration 5+, and scaly skin 4+. So 35 points more than a Slaughter Brute, but is my preferred choice over that dual kit option. It's a little bit tougher with the regeneration, but the bound spell's quite good. It means it can kind of sit back behind the main line and still be doing the direct damage. So that's not bad. And, sometimes I would take this monster if only taking a small unit of Skull Crushers. So if I just took 3 Skull Crushers, I could afford to fit the Vortex Beast in. And sometimes I would do that just to kind of, flex things up so you're not playing with the same thing all the time. However, my preference was still to have everything on one big Skull Crusher unit. That was just my personal choice. But the Mutalith Vortex Beast is not a bad shout here. And as I say, you can sit in behind the main line there using that bound spell. And then when you do get him into combat, d6 +2 random attacks, not going to be bad with his strength and toughness. So not as killy in combat as that Slaughter Brute, as you can imagine. But it's a pretty decent bound spell, and I think that does make a bit of a difference, and it's got some range to it as well. So there you go. That's the last unit of the rare category. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the series so far. That brings us to the end of the normal roster. We've got legendary heroes and lords still to come. If you haven't played Warhammer Fantasy Battle before, then hopefully it was a good look at what was in the Warriors of Chaos unit roster. If you did play before, hopefully it was a good reminder and refresher if you haven't been playing old versions in the meantime, and ready now to look into Warhammer The Old World. And as I've said, if you're looking to go Warriors of Chaos, you're in a great position because nearly all of the main generic units are still available, and you can actually buy them today because they're in Age of Sigmar, and many of them have been refreshed to look really cool as well, bases being your main consideration. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, hit that subscribe button. It's free for you to do, and it means a lot for me. And there is more content to come. You've been watching The Ghost Owl. Tune back in as we come to near the end of our faction focus for Warriors of Chaos, looking at legendary lords.